Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another really nice looking PNSO model here to take a look at. This figure definitely took a while to get here, so in my opinion it's not so bad because I still had a new PNSO figure to look forward to while we await the release of more figures coming from them. I'm sure plenty more in the future. But this one was kind of stuck in transit for quite some time, as my PNSO models usually always are. But we finally now have it here to take a look at, and it is the Torosaurus. And you can see right here on the front of the box, we have a fantastic image of the Torosaurus, as well as an image of the younger version right there, which I believe is also included in this set. And then here on the side, you can see PNSO, Dinosaur Museum, Torosaurus, Aubrey. And we also, again, have 1/35th scale, so you know what the scale of the model is. And then if you take a look over here, we've got some more information on PNSO. Same deal pretty much for the opposing side. You're really not going to see too much difference. But one thing to take note of, again, is the fact that this is a museum release. So that means we'll probably have lots of extras in here. And then you have this information here on the back. Nothing really on the actual back of the box aside from, again, some more information on PNSO. But the box is now upside down, but the box is also really quite nice and pretty impressively heavy as well, which leads me to believe there's definitely some fun goodies inside. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So as always, when it comes to these museum releases, we've got a booklet included in here, or some sort of an envelope, I should say, with all kinds of fun stuff, I'm sure, included. And just like always as well, on the back, we have a sticker sealing the envelope with the skull of the Torosaurus. Let's see if we can pop this one off without breaking it. I really don't think so. I usually do, but maybe we'll get lucky. Oh, it already popped. Oh, but look at that. See now, that's a bummer because I ripped it right there, but it did come off. Fail, as always. But anyway, we get this stuff out of the way here, and we take a look at everything included. So straight away, this we don't really need to open anymore because we've been through enough museum releases to know that there's a lot of information in here. Of course, I will open it and read it, but right now, you basically just need to know that there are numerous cards included in here, and when you run through it, it's going to give you a really nice rundown of the dinosaur, PNSO, all of that fun information. So that's what is included in there. Then we have the booklet, the classic, well, I'm pulling stuff out here, the classic booklet from PNSO that you always have included. And then in the booklet, you're going to find all kinds of fun stuff, as well as plenty of very nice images. Straight away, we see one right there of the Torosaurus, because they always give you lots of really fun stuff included in these booklets. Basically, usually like a photo shoot of the model. As we go through here, you can see another really nice image right there. And then we continue to move on through. So here we go. You can start to see, I had to skip a few pages, but you start to see some of the really nice imagery of the model, both models, because we actually have two included in this set. And what was that back there? That was a Protoceratops. Boy, fingers crossed that's a tease for a future release from PNSO, because I would absolutely love to see a Protoceratops from PNSO. But then we kind of hit this point in the booklet where you start to see that kind of museum exhibit type of a look, which usually is a tease for some images that we will find in the poster area of the release. And you can again see just tons of stuff, as well as back here you can get a pretty good idea of some of the books that PNSO has out currently, which I am just aching to get a hold of and dive into. I don't have any of those, but I really do want to get a hold of some. So a really fun booklet. Again, I didn't show everything included, but there is just a lot to go through when it comes to that booklet. A really fun read and tons of stuff to look at in that booklet. So once we get to this point, we have these really nice images that they supply you with that are basically giving you the ability to draw your own dinosaur art. And they usually give you quite a few of those. So we have to figure out how many we have here. We have a whole bunch of them. Okay, so we've got a nice little stack of, again, papers that are included to draw yourself some dinosaurs. And then we move on to the really cool artwork that they always include. Very excited to see this. Oh, look at that. There's the Protoceratops I was just looking at. And look at how beautiful that is. Wow, I really like that coloration of that. Look at the frill color up there. The usage of blues, and I can see like purples, it looks like, in there. And man, that's really, really nice. If they do make a Protoceratops, please, PNSO, give it that coloration. That is awesome. So the next one that we have here is... oh, we can see exactly who that one is. That horn really gives the species away. We've got the Ionosaurus, and again, incredible artwork. PNSO, I say it almost every time we get one of these museum releases. PNSO is responsible for some of the greatest paleo art I have ever had the pleasure of checking out in my entire life. Here is a release from PNSO that we've already had. We have the Starracosaurus, a really cool image of the actual figure that PNSO has released. And they have released a lot of Ceratopsians over the last few years. We've had a ton of those. And speaking of, here's another one that we've had not long ago. We have the Spinops, and this one has come out again from PNSO in the past, although it didn't quite have the coloration that we're looking at here. Similar, but I would actually like to see a re-release with this exact coloration on it, because I think that looks great. One of the most lifelike images I think I've ever seen of a Spinops. And then as we continue to move through here, again, another species that we've had released from PNSO here in their line as far as Ceratopsians go. And look at the coloration of this one. Wow. Man, that's really nice. I'm almost wishing they would start to re-release against some of their previous figures with these new color schemes. They have given us some repaints in the past, so maybe they'll do that at some point. Not everybody's a big fan of repaints, but I actually love them, especially when they look as good as some of these images have. The next one that we've got here is a species that we have not actually had released from PNSO, which, in case you don't notice, I don't know if it's ever been evident or if I've pointed it out, but they always include the species name down here in the bottom corner. You can always find out who you're looking at. They usually tell you, at the very least anyway. But again, another species of Ceratopsian we have not had released from PNSO. Another really cool color scheme that I would like to see on it if they do release one. But I always wonder if some of these images, maybe if they're teases for future releases. I don't really think that it necessarily is. It's just very cool imagery that they usually include when it comes to different species of Ceratopsians that, are associated, again, considering we have a Ceratopsian release here. And this one is a really nice one, as we have a Spiclipius here with another really cool color scheme. And this is a severely underrated species of Ceratopsian that really needs more figures, so that's one that I really hope PNSO releases. Again, there's always a ton. We have a lot of these to look at, and then we continue to, again, run through many different Ceratopsians, as we have a Cosmoceratops this time, with, again, a really nice, very natural looking version. Nothing too flashy as far as the coloration of that one goes, but it 100% looks about as realistic and lifelike as it gets. And then also have, let's see here, oh boy, I didn't know which way to go with that one. Yet another Ceratopsian that we have not had released from PNSO, and there are so many, I think. It's impressive just how many Ceratopsians that are out there, but it's impressive how many models PNSO has released, yet there's still so many more, especially Ceratopsians, that they could run through and release. Another cool color scheme for that one. But I love that every single image so far has featured a different Ceratopsian. I have yet to have one single repeat as far as these go when it comes to different Ceratopsians. And again, here is more evidence. And another really nice color scheme. Chasmosaurus is actually one of my favorite Ceratopsians, and that's another one that is severely underappreciated when it comes to prehistoric models. Like, probably one of the more popular Ceratopsians that just really does not get much love, so I would love to see them make that one as well. And then, oh wow, we're moving on now to way larger posters. So now, as you can see, we are moving into the actual exhibit for the Taurosaurus. Again, they always include these larger versions as well, and these releases feature so much incredible artwork. You could just, dedicate an entire wall to every release, and you would just have so much beauty on your wall. And you can see an awesome Cetacosaurus image. That is absolutely one of the most beautiful images that I think I've ever seen featuring a Cetacosaurus, and just in general prehistoric life. That is absolutely awesome looking artwork. And the next one is, oh boy, we've got quite the battle going on here featuring a Pachyrhinosaurus. And I feel like that Pachyrhinosaurus is about to win that battle. But again, incredible, incredible artwork on the part of PNSO. The next one that we have here is, oh, look at the coloration on that one with the Centrosaurus. I wish we would have had that color scheme for the Centrosaurus that PNSO released. Not saying that the coloration that we had on that one was bad, because I absolutely love the Centrosaurus that PNSO had released, but they always have such really creative, really colorful paint jobs on these dinosaurs that they include in the posters, and specifically I'm really loving the usage of blues on the frills and even in the snout here of a lot of these Ceratopsians. And then the next one that we have here is huge. Again, another absolutely massive image of a Sinoceratops. And you can see again the coloration of that one, very flashy, really quite nice. Another massive poster. And then we're actually starting to get, I think, at least fairly close to running through this, if I can figure out how to open this one. There we go. Boy, I don't know why I was having some problems with that one. So this time we have another incredible image of a Tyrannosaur taking down a Ceratopsian, and look at how beautiful, again, not only the artwork is, not only the image in general, but how beautiful the coloration is of that Tyrannosaur. That is absolutely awesome. I might have to borrow some of these color schemes on some repaints that I'm going to work on in the future, because I'm always trying to look for inspiration, and these are some really nice choices for that. And then we've got the classic Triceratops, which we have also had released from PNSO not long ago. Probably one of my favorite Triceratops in my collection. And you can see, again, fantastic when it comes to the overall imagery, beautiful coloration, really nice natural image here for us with the baby there underneath the Triceratops, or in front of it, I should say. Again, incredible is pretty much all you can say when it comes to the plethora of extras you get in these sets. And then we finally reach our Taurosaurus, and yet again, I love the coloration of it, but I also love the appearance. A really cool color scheme for this one as well. I really think PNSO should take some inspiration of their own right from some of the color schemes that they have on these, again, beautiful posters they include, and start to apply them to some of the figures. Although I will say the coloration of the Torosaurus that we already have, like specifically in the frill, is one of the most beautiful things I think I've ever seen. And then we have a size chart here with quite a few different Ceratopsians. You can see many different sizes, as we have everything from a Psittacosaurus, again, to the incredibly large Torosaurus. So lots to look at here as far as the sizes go. And then, is this the final one? Yes, it is the final image that we have included. Yet another very impressive image here with a beautiful prehistoric landscape featuring numerous different dinosaurs, of course, including our Torosaurus that is included. That right there is definitely the type of poster you want up on your wall, framed and up on your wall, not just like sitting there. That one deserves a frame for sure. So now that we've officially run through all of those extras, which always takes an extremely long time because there's so much included, we can move to the figure. And we've got ourselves, of course, the little baby. He's a little bit far away right now, he or she, but we'll get there. We'll get closer in a moment. And then the Taurosaurus itself. And just like I was saying, man, is that ever beautiful. Look at the coloration on the frill. That is just absolutely awesome looking coloration. And as a whole, even though it's probably a little bit dark because it's kind of further away right now, the coloration on this Taurosaurus is really nice, really natural as a whole. The sculpt looks fantastic. The paint job as well looks fantastic. So let's jump to a closer look at this right now. So straight away, looking at our baby, you can see the baby is absolutely beautiful when it comes to the sculpt. Again, PNSO does not skimp out whether it's the adult or the babies. No matter what they include, it is awesome. And you can see detail-wise, that is one gorgeous little baby Taurosaurus, and some very nice coloration. And what I really like about the colors is it kind of replicates the adult, but in the exact way you would expect a baby to look, because it has the same similar tones of color, especially as far as like the body goes, but it's not quite as bright, as flashy when you reach up into the frill, but you can already start to see some of the coloration that you see up there in the frill, as we have like some really nice orangish tones on the frill of the adult, and you kind of see that there on the baby as well. You can see the head sculpt looks really nice. We have the mouth closed here. You can see the nostrils right there, the beak. You also have very nicely painted eyes with a black. We also have the horns starting to grow out of the head here of the dinosaur, and the horns are actually painted. You can see some nice like light kind of whitish tones or off-white tones up there. You can see the eye over here as well is painted very nicely. And the eye also sports a nice glossy look. Really nice natural coloration as we have some variations of browns and then kind of like that darker gray and then those slight reddish or orangish tints up here on the outer edge of the frill. The scale detail looks really nice on the figure overall, and you can see as we reach the body, again, we have that same style of detail and same style of coloration that we have on the adult, where we have some really nice variations of browns, but we have kind of like a black dry brushing or like a darker gray dry brushing, and it allows the really nice lighter tones there to highlight those darker dry brushed scales, and man does it ever look good. That is absolutely beautiful. You can see the spinal column there running down the back of the dinosaur. You can also see the nice muscle definition through the course of both the front and rear legs, the hip bone and everything very nicely done, and we have a really nice kind of a walking pose for the baby Torosaurus. So as a whole, the baby is beautiful. I would say just as beautiful, or at least very close to as beautiful as the adult. And before I actually take it away, you can even see we have like some reddish tones here on the underside, or like orangish actually, I should say, tones here on the underside. So even more color variation. So quite a bit of color applied to something so small. And then we have the adult, and the adult is way larger, of course, but you can see again that the detail is just about as incredible as it gets when it comes to a Taurosaurus. Man, PNSO absolutely kills it when it comes to the sculpts and the paint jobs of their figures. You can see the nostrils are sculpted very nicely here up here on the snout, and there's also a nice pinkish tone in there, but it actually almost appears to have like some color difference. So adding in even more realism, it looks like there's almost like a kind of like a purplish wash or something in there. You can see the fine detail of the beak is really, really nicely done, very realistically sculpted out. You have like some cracks and crevices, almost looking like imperfections or even some slight injuries to the beak of the Torosaurus. And then as you move up here into the head, you can see so many different varying sizes of scales, whether it's down here in the lower jaw or up here on the upper part of the head. You can again just see so much difference when it comes to the scale detail. Man, this is incredibly impressive as far as this sculpt goes. And as you move here up in toward the eye, you can see again some fantastic detailing there around the eye, as well as some really nice paintwork, as the eye kind of has like a light gray but has been dry brushed over, highlighting all of those scales really, really nicely. And then, I mean the eye socket area, not the eye itself, but the eye area. And then as far as the eye, we have a really nice yellowish tone with a black pupil, sporting a fantastic realistic gloss coat. And as you continue to move up here a little further into the head, you can see the ear right there for the Torosaurus. You can also see some larger clusters of scales here, very large scales as you move up toward the frill of the dinosaur, and they all kind of have that, again, similar kind of like light wash, like a light gray wash, really highlighting all of the scales in a very realistic way. And then as you move up into the frill, straight away you can see the transition from the darker tones of color of the face up into the frill is incredibly smooth, but you can also see that the transitions of colors within the frill are also incredibly smooth, as we have variations of oranges, as well as kind of like some kind of like khakis or like light browns included in there. And there's this really neat design that we have that is about as flashy of a design as it gets when it comes to the frill of a Ceratopsian. And in an area like this and this style of paintwork, like, it would be very easy for this to look like paint on a figure and look sloppy and just not so natural. That is not at all what you see on this model. That is one of the most impressive paint applications that I think I've seen on a dinosaur figure, and specifically on a PNSO figure, even though their paint jobs are always incredible. Like, everything on here looks exactly like skin color. It looks like the body color of the dinosaur. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form look like paint on a figure. And that, again, is a pretty intricate design that we have here. And I love how even from this side to the other side, it looks different. Like, you can see how the black kind of connects to this circular area here on this side, whereas it doesn't over here. So again, that's something that I really feel like you would see on a real dinosaur. Like, if it had a similar color to this, I feel like there would be some difference. So PNSO always, again, kind of thinking outside the box, making sure their models are as realistic as possible. And once again, absolutely nailing it as far as that aspect goes. And you can see that that coloration, like we have the black kind of picking up and running up here, starts to kind of, well, first of all, it borders the entire outer edge of the frill, but it kind of starts to design in. So you can see some splotchy-like areas of the orange and stuff here on the side. And man, I just cannot even put into words how impressive that coloration is in the frill. Definitely one of the most visually appealing dinosaur models I've ever seen. And you can also see, as far as these kind of like almost armored like scoots running up the center of the frill go, we have like a kind of a reddish brown color for those, and they're so small but yet perfectly painted. And you can see those, of course, running the entire length of the frill, and they all sport that same coloration and are all perfectly painted. Again, there is zero sloppiness on this Taurosaurus. It is one of the nicest paint jobs I think I've ever seen on a dinosaur figure, period. And you can also see that as far as the transition goes, when we lead up into the horns, it's a very, very smooth transition. And I love how it starts with that darker tone of color, similar to what we see on the face, but then transitions incredibly smoothly to that very nice variation of brown out onto the horns. We do have an articulated jaw, and you can see that the inside of the mouth, again, sports some of the most realistic sculpt work I think I've ever seen. Look at the detail there on the tongue, and I'm always impressed when it comes to PNSO and how insanely highly detailed their models are. But when it comes to a Ceratopsian mouth, I don't know that it gets more detailed than what I'm seeing here. And again, really smooth coloration. We have some really nice naturalistic tones of pink, fantastic gloss coat included in there as well. And you can see the teeth are present inside the mouth. We can't get too far back in there before it starts to kind of get darker on us, but it does look absolutely awesome in there as well. As we lead back here into the neck, you can start to see kind of like some creasing picking up, as well as the really nice scale detail, again with that light wash that they've given this figure and the nice dry brushing. It highlights each and every scale detail in the most realistic way possible. You can see the rear of the frill sports some really nice tones of color back here as well. We have kind of like a almost like a greenish brown that borders around the outer edge before transitioning to like this really nice tone of orange on the inside. And then again, as you lead up here into the back, you can see all of the different scales all highlighted very nicely with the really nice paintwork. You can kind of pick up on the spinal column of the dinosaur as well. You can kind of see the structure of the shoulder blade leading up there, but you can again see how nice the scale detail just absolutely pops on the model. And then moving down into that front leg, look at how muscular that is. Again, this is a very large animal, so you would expect the musculature to be pretty immense, and that is definitely what you see on that front leg there. You can see some nice creasing there as well, where the leg connects to the body, again showing the movement of that leg. As you lead down, you can kind of get an idea of the bone structure of the dinosaur as well. You've got the elbow present right there. Beautiful skin wrinkles as you lead down into the wrist. The toes are very nicely sculpted. And again, everything has that same similar style of paintwork where we have that kind of lighter, it's not really like a light gray down here. It's like a light gray in certain areas of the face, but down here it's more of like a light brown wash. And you can again see how that's applied even down here into the toes of the dinosaur. And all of it is really nicely, again, dry brushed with a darker tone of color like a dark gray. And you can see the nails are also very nicely painted. They've been given a nice gloss coat as well. Leading back up here into the stomach, you can see we have a nice lighter brown here in the stomach. Really smooth transition to get to that point. You can see more skin kind of stretching off of the stomach here as that rear leg is pulling that skin back. Very nice attention to detail, again showing off all of the skin detail you would expect to see when it comes to the movement of the dinosaur. You've got the hip bone present up there, and then as we lead down into the thigh, again we continue to have all of those really nice scales, the really nice osteoderms, as well as some immense musculature in that thigh and calf region. You can see the calf is absolutely bulging. I would definitely not want to get kicked by this dinosaur. As you lead down there, you can see a little further down into the leg, you've got the kneecap present. Nice, again, skin creasing there in the ankle. Gorgeous looking foot sculpt here on the back leg, and again some nicely painted nails. And then as we lead up here into the tail, you can kind of see some of the skin wrinkling, not just here on the tail, but all the way up into the back of the thigh, showing off how impressive the detailing aspect of this model is. You have a nice curve in the tail leading upward right there, and again some more of that really nice paintwork with the mixture of the lighter brown and then the darker like grayish dry brushing that they've given it. Just so much really nice paintwork on this figure. Over here you could see a lot more skin wrinkles in the neck region, because of course the dinosaur has its head turned in that direction, so you would see exactly that as far as like wrinkling and creasing in the neck, just showing again the movement of the dinosaur very nicely. And I think PNSO excels potentially more so than anyone when it comes to showing off the skin detail of their figures, and that looks really, really nice right there. And as you continue to move back here into the body again, you can see the same style of sculpt as we have the really nice skin wrinkles here leading down into the leg, beautiful muscle definition leading down here toward the foot. Again, the leg is a little bit more outstretched over here, so you don't see so many creases in the wrist, but you can see again that the foot sculpt looks great. Very nicely painted nails. We see a little less of the stomach region because the rear leg is heading toward the stomach, kind of lifting up and taking a step. So it's kind of obscuring a little bit of the stomach, but you can see how nicely they displayed that here in the sculpt when it comes to the skin wrinkles in the stomach region, kind of bunching that skin up very nicely. You can see again the hip bone, beautiful muscle definition, and you can see some skin stretching here again as this leg is pulling forward, taking that step, stretching the skin not just here on the thigh, but all the way out onto the tail. Nice curves to the toes as well, showing a really cool appearance to how the toes would look as it's picking the foot up and taking a step. Really nice looking, almost bird-like with the way that that looks like. Not something you often see portrayed on a Ceratopsian, but I do love that aspect of the model. And you can again see the really nice muscle definition there in the calf, as well as the kneecap. And then you lead out into the tail again. Very nice curve to the tail. You can see some really smooth transitions to those lighter browns on the underside. You do have a cloaca present and an entirely different style of scale detail for the underside of the dinosaur, kind of like what you would expect to see. And you also have an alternate tone of color here with a light brown, but it's a totally different shade of brown than what we see up here. And you can even see difference of color within the stomach, like the center of the stomach is a slightly different shade than the color that kind of borders around it. So PNSO really, again, puts so much into their models, whether it's the sculpt, whether it's the paint. Everything about this is an incredible, incredible release on the part of PNSO. And honestly, this one has far exceeded my expectations, and my expectations are always really quite high when it comes to PNSO because I have so many models of theirs in my collection at this point that I know what I'm getting into. When I purchase one, I'm going to get an incredibly high quality release, but this one somehow is even better, I think, than most PNSO releases, and somehow is even better than what I was expecting, which I was already, again, super hyped for this, but this thing is just absolutely beautiful. As far as a size goes, for a length on the Torosaurus, actually we'll go all the way to that horn, you're looking at about 9¼ inches, or right around 23.5 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the frill, about 4¾ inches, or a little over 12 centimeters. And then for our very small and very adorable baby, about 2¼ inches in length, or around 5.5 centimeters. You're not going to get much for a height here, but you're looking at a little under an inch, I would say, or about 2.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is our Taurosaurus next to Wilson, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and you can definitely see how they size up next to each other. I think our Wilson T-Rex figure here would definitely have some issues if he attempted to approach this Torosaurus and take down, maybe even if he went for the baby, he's going to probably get a horn through the head because that Torosaurus is quite massive and definitely up for protecting its child, that is for sure. And then for another comparison, we have the battle of the Ceratopsians, as we have the PNSO Triceratops next to the PNSO Torosaurus. And I will say these two look awesome together. Like when it comes to something that could make a really cool display, these two are a great choice because they definitely look like they would create one incredible diorama together. And of course, two beautiful figures here in comparison to each other. Hopefully, again, to help give you an idea roughly of the size of this Torosaurus if you do already have the Triceratops. And then for another comparison, as far as your usual figures that I would usually do a comparison with, we have Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to the Taurosaurus here. And you can again get a pretty good idea of the fact that the Taurosaurus does sport a really nice size. It's not anything that's super huge like their older vinyl models were, but it is definitely a very nicely sized version of a Taurosaurus, and I would say probably the largest Ceratopsian that is out from PNSO, that of course is not the large vinyl Triceratops they've released in the past, but again, hopefully showing you that this is a very impressive size figure. And then for another comparison of a figure that many people probably have in their collection, here is the Beasts of the Mesozoic subadult Triceratops next to the Torosaurus, again, showing you that the size honestly isn't all that far off. Obviously, the Triceratops there is a little bit larger, and obviously also the scales are entirely different, but the figure as a whole, as far as the Torosaurus goes, definitely can hold its own when it comes to a size next to that Triceratops. And because it's one of the more popular Ceratopsians from the Ceratopsian series, there is the Zuniceratops next to the Torosaurus. And this is another figure that I feel like was a pretty popular release from the Beasts of the Mesozoic line. So one that maybe some of you will have, or most of you will have, that you can probably compare, again, size-wise next to the Torosaurus. Then we have ourselves the Centrosaurus here next to the Torosaurus, another beautiful Ceratopsian model from PNSO. And then we also have, for one final comparison, we'll bring in the Iguanodon here next to the Torosaurus. And you can see even that Iguanodon would definitely have a pretty big problem if that Torosaurus were angry at it. So again, hopefully helping to give you a pretty good idea, I think, of the size and the fact that this is a very impressively sized figure. So this brand new PNSO Torosaurus is awesome. Definitely, I think it's safe to say at this point, it's one of my favorite releases from PNSO, and that is not something that comes as a surprise, because I've actually heard that from many different people, that this Torosaurus is not just one of their favorite releases, it is their favorite release from PNSO. So I had, my expectations were pretty high coming into this review and finally receiving the figure, but even with high expectations, this figure has somehow managed to defeat those expectations, and it is even nicer than I was expecting. Like, this thing is just gorgeous, whether it's the sculpt or the paint. It is definitely the total package. The detailing is off the charts on this Torosaurus. Every ounce of detail that would be and should be present when it comes to the movement shown is shown in the sculpt. PNSO is so good at making sure their models are as highly detailed as it gets, and so good at showing off skin movement, and you can really see that through the course of this figure. It is expertly sculpted, and the detailing as far as the fine detail goes, like the scale detail as well, is super impressive. You can see so many different varying sizes of scales everywhere you look, different styles and different appearances to the scales depending on where you look on the figure. So that as well is incredibly impressive. And of course, the paint job is one of the most important aspects of any model, and PNSO knocked it out of the park when it comes to this Torosaurus. The overall coloration, I feel like, is really nice, really natural, and again, exactly what I'd like to see on a species like this. And also they add that really beautiful element of flashiness up there in the frill, with quite possibly one of the most visually appealing frills I've ever seen on a Ceratopsian in general, not just on a Ceratopsian model. I'm talking like paleo art. Anytime I've ever seen a Ceratopsian in my entire life, this is one of the nicest looking, most visually appealing, and most natural looking frills that I've ever seen on a Ceratopsian. So you have the really nice flashiness to the model, the nice naturalistic darker tones of color. Again, the total package. You also have articulation in the jaw, and the inside of the mouth looks incredible. I was a little iffy when I first saw the images of the articulated jaw, and I can say that here in hand it looks way better than I was expecting. So I kind of thought it would be something that was a little distracting for the model, but it's actually not at all in hand as far as I'm concerned. And the baby is just as beautiful, I think, as the adult. Really nice addition to this, because I love having a baby dinosaur to go with the adult. And the baby as well has some beautiful sculpting and detailing and some fantastic paintwork that nicely replicates the adult in, again, a baby form, showing how the dinosaur would, transition in colors as it gets older. So PNSO absolutely nailed this release. You have some fantastic models, a plethora of extras when it comes to the artwork and everything included. So when it comes to recommended models, this is as high up on the list as it gets. I really recommend picking up this Torosaurus because it is awesome. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can pick this up on the PNSO Amazon store as well as the PNSO Aliexpress store. Make sure you check those links, purchase this incredible model, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.